Mermaids. For literally thousands of years, these half-human, half-fish beings have totally captured our imagination. They're always swimming in that murky water, right on the line between what's real and what's legend. And they're one of the most enduring figures in myth all across the globe. But the creature from our imagination and the creature people claim they've actually met, well, let's just say they couldn't be more different.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this. On the one hand, you've got the romantic version of the mermaid, right? Beautiful, enchanting, the stuff of fairy tales. But then you get these harrowing, first-person accounts like this one from a snorkeler in Thailand. That paints a picture that's less fairy tale and a whole lot more nightmare. And this contrast, this is really the heart of the entire mermaid mystery. So, which is it? To really get to the bottom of this, we have to look back, like way back. Because this isn't just some modern fairy tale or a story sailors tell. The whole idea of a half-human sea creature is this incredibly powerful, ancient, and truly global thing, popping up in cultures all over the world for thousands of years.
And these tales, they stretch across millennia. They change over time, from these powerful goddesses to really dangerous omens. Each culture puts its own unique spin on the creature living under the waves, and that's shaped how we see them, even today.
The way the mermaid has evolved is just fascinating. It all starts around 1000 BC with an Assyrian goddess, Atargatis. The story goes, she throws herself into a lake out of shame and becomes the very first mermaid. Then, in ancient Greece, you have the sirens, who were originally birdwomen, by the way, luring sailors to their deaths. But over time, their image kind of merged with the fish-tailed creatures we think of now. By the time we get to medieval Europe, seeing a mermaid, like the Irish Merrow, was considered a terrible omen, like a warning of a storm or a shipwreck. This all leads us to the 19th century, when reported sightings started to become surprisingly common.
Now, if we head over to Japan, the myth takes a really different turn. There, you have the ningyo, which means human fish, and it's less about seduction and more about immortality. The legend says that if you eat the flesh of a ningyo, you can get an unnaturally long life. But catching one was also said to bring horrible storms and bad luck. So this gift of longevity, it came with a really heavy price.
In Slavic folklore, the mermaid isn't a natural creature at all. It's a vengeful spirit. They're called the rusalka, and they're the ghosts of young women who died tragically, usually by drowning. After dark, they're said to come out of lakes and rivers, looking beautiful and pale, to lure young men into the water, and to their doom. It's basically a ghost story, a warning that's tied directly to the water's edge.
And the myth's reach doesn't stop there. It extends all across Africa with Mamiwata, which translates to Mother of the Water. She's this powerful water spirit, often seen as a femme fatale who can bring you good fortune or total destruction. And, true to form, she's also known for luring her male followers to their deaths. So from Assyria to Africa, the pattern is pretty clear. These beings are beautiful, they're powerful, and they are incredibly dangerous.
So with thousands of years of stories from all over the world, you have to wonder, right? Is there any truth to any of this? And that brings us to the rational search for answers, where scientists and skeptics have tried to peel back all those layers of myth to find a logical explanation.
And the most common scientific theory? It's basically mistaken identity. The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's NOAA, is really firm on this. They say there is absolutely no evidence of aquatic humanoids. Their thinking is that lonely, tired sailors who've been at sea for months might have mistaken mammals like manatees or dugongs for mermaids. Even Christopher Columbus reported seeing them, and he noted they were, quote, not half as beautiful as they are painted.
But hey, if you couldn't find a real mermaid, you could always just make one. And this brings us to the king of spectacle himself, P.T. Barnum, and probably the most famous mermaid hoax in history. Now, this description from Barnum himself is a far cry from the beautiful maiden he was advertising. So what exactly was the Fiji mermaid? Well, the reality behind the curtain was grim, but also kind of simple. The Fiji mermaid wasn't some creature of myth, it was a grotesque piece of taxidermy. These were actually often made by fishermen in Japan and then sold to sailors. The process was, well, it was grim. You take the top half of a monkey, you sew it onto the back half of a fish, and then you mummify the whole creation. The effect was horrifying, but for a showman like Barnum, That was just part of the appeal. I mean, just imagine the scene. You've seen the posters, right? They're advertising this beautiful, enchanting mermaid. You pay your shilling, you step inside, only to be confronted with this, a shriveled up, dead monkeyfish. It was a huge disappointment for a lot of people, but the spectacle drew massive crowds, and it cemented the Fiji mermaid as this legendary piece of sideshow history.
But this is where the rational explanation starts to, well, fall apart. Because manatees and monkeyfish hoaxes, they can't explain everything. People today are still reporting encounters. We're talking first-hand accounts that are visceral, they're terrifying, and they just defy any simple explanation.
This account from a person snorkeling in Thailand is absolutely chilling. They describe seeing something coming out of an underwater cave really slowly. And it wasn't beautiful, it was corpse-like, with gray skin and a spine that you could actually see. It moved slowly, never looked up, and then it revealed this dark gray, classic mermaid tail before disappearing into another cave. The witness was so terrified they burst into tears and just swam for their life.
And then you have this story from Honduras. This isn't just a sighting, this is a physical assault. A man, who's 6'5", by the way, felt a hand grab him and then start pulling him down by his hair. His friends saw him panicking, but they couldn't see what was happening under the water. He says he's still terrified of going back into the sea. That feeling of being physically pulled down by some unseen force is just a terrifying and recurring theme.
This account from Jamaica sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie. A person on a beach at night felt this intense, irresistible urge to just run into the water. After they got their feet wet, they felt this wave of dread and ran back. Just then, a bolt of lightning lit up the sea, revealing a big, dark figure with long hair just staring at them from the water. A split second later, it was gone.
So the really crucial point here is that when you start looking at these modern stories, you see patterns emerge. Witnesses consistently report feeling this intense, almost hypnotic pull towards the water, and then it's followed by this wave of primal fear. The creatures are almost never described as beautiful. Words like ugly, terrifying, and corpse-like are way more common. And another thing, these encounters aren't just in the ocean. People report them in rivers, lakes, even ponds.
So what are we supposed to make of all this? We have these ancient myths, these 19th century hoaxes, scientific dismissals, and then these raw modern testimonies that are all surprisingly consistent. It just leaves us with this profound, lingering question. This blunt statement from one witness really just sums up the whole disconnect, doesn't it? The popular, sanitized image of the friendly, singing mermaid is a world away from the frightening reality that people describe. For those who believe they've had a real encounter, the Disney version feels like this dangerous fantasy that completely ignores the terror that they actually experienced. And that really is the ultimate question. We have these three totally distinct threads: the ancient myth, the deliberate hoax, and the modern eyewitness account. Are they all separate things? Or are they just different attempts to describe the same, unsettling truth? When all these stories collide, it forces us to wonder what might actually be waiting for us, just beneath the surface.